الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي وبعد. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما وارزقنا فهما والحمد لله على كل حال ونعوذ بالله من حال أهل الضلال برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي وبعد. First and foremost, we thank and we praise Allah Ta'ala, our gracious sustainer, the provider, the omnipotent, and thereafter we send the choicest of salutations, salam on the best of creation, our role model, our chain of transmission, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. May the same salutations, blessings be upon his pure household, his companions, and may the same salutations and blessings be upon us all. Ameen, Ya Rabbil Alameen. First and foremost, I greet you with the most authentic greeting in Islam, and that is a greeting of peace and love. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Indeed, we are privileged and honored once again to meet on this beautiful day of Yawm al-Jumu'ah, khayru yawmin tala'at fihi shams, the best day the sun has ever risen, as the Prophet ﷺ beautifully articulated in the prophetic tradition. That this day Adam alayhi salatu wassalam was created. On this day he was put in Jannah. It is on this day that he was exiled from Jannah. It is on this day that he came to planet Earth. It is on this day that the hour and the hour of resurrection shall be erected. It is on this day that the Muslims take celebration. It is Yawm Eid or Eid al-Usbu'. It is the Eid and celebration of the week for Muslims. It is on this day, inshallah ta'ala, that we commence and we start our new series, which will be taking place every Friday at 12:30, inshallah ta'ala. These lectures will be based on the Ihya Ulumuddin, Rub'ul Muhlikat, or Rub'ul Muhlikat, the revival of the Islamic sciences, or the revival of the religious sciences, that was written by the Proof of Islam, Imam Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, rahimahullah ta'ala. And the chapter that I shall concentrate on in these segments is the chapter of distraction, the chapter of those elements and instruments that destroy and distract and annihilate the human race. It is in here that Imam al-Ghazali rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi beautifully explains that the virtue of human beings is through the preparation of knowing his Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For indeed, through knowing our Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this dunya, we shall see its beauty, its perfection, and its honor. And in the akhirah and in the eschatological world, we shall see its preparation and we shall see its benefits. And therefore, in order to prepare to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we should do this through the heart. For indeed, Iman and faith, when we speak about Iman and faith, we all subscribe to the beautiful kalima, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. And that subscription starts from the heart. So when we explain the meaning and the cognitive understanding of monotheism, we find that in the books of Ilm al-Kalam and theology, we see that the scholars have said that monotheism and faith, Iman, is tasdeeq bil-qalb. It is the affirmation or confirmation of the heart. It is therefore Imam al-Ghazali goes on to say that the qalb this is the true knower of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is through directing the heart in order to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is the heart that is the ultimate motive in order to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is through the heart that one can strive to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is through the heart that one can discover that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has in store for him. It is through the limbs that are regarded as atba' wa khidam wa alat, that the rest of the limbs other than the heart are ultimately followers and disciples and servants and instruments and tools in order to know Allah Azza wa Jal. It is therefore that Ghazali explicitly goes into a deep cognitive understanding of what is the heart. And he goes on to say that the heart, the nafs and the ruh and the aql is used in particular meanings. So when we think of the heart, we could translate that as qalb. When we think of the nafs, we think of the inner soul. When we think of the ruh, we think of the spirit. When we think of the aql, we think of the intellect. So these are four things that work hand in hand. There is so much still to learn about the ruh. Therefore, when the Prophet ﷺ was asked about the ruh, he said, قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي, that say that the spirit and the ruh is from the matter of my Lord, and we have not given you except but a little knowledge. So here Ghazali goes into explaining the connection between the heart, the nafs, the intellect, and the ruh. And he goes on to give a definition of the heart, the nafs, and the ruh, and the aql. And he says that هو لطيفة ربانية روحانية هي حقيقة الإنسان والمدرك العارف منه. So he says that the heart, the nafs, and the ruh, the heart, the soul, and the spirit and intellect is a subtle, divine, spiritual instrument which emulates the reality of the human being and is the ultimate instrument that gives him the ability of realization, meaning realizing his creator. So it is this subtle instrument which gives the human being the cognitive ability to understand his Lord, which is called the heart, the ruh, meaning the spirit, or the intellect, or as we also refer to it as the nafs. So these terminologies, the heart, the spirit, the intellect, and the soul are used in particular meanings. So he goes on to say that if we were to give a definition of the heart, we could say that it is a لحم الصنوبري الشكل المودع في الجانب الأيسر من الصدر, which is a fancy way of saying it is a small flesh and lump that is found in the right side or the left side of the chest. وهذا القلب موجود للبهائم. He goes on to say that this piece of flesh and instrument that we're speaking about, the animals and the cattle even have hearts. It is therefore وَمِنْ عَالَمِ الْمُلْكِ وَالشَّهَادَةِ, that the heart is regarded as part of the universe and the dominion of that which will be testimony on the day of resurrection. And he goes on to then explain the definition of the nafs, And he says the nafs is that encompassing thing that causes that strength and that strength of anger, and that causes that desirous nature that we find in human beings. So this is the definition of the nafs, and that's why some people would say that the nafs is the inner soul. It's the deeper inner me. And if you truly want to know yourself, then you will see that even in the month of Ramadan, when your soul is supposed to be suppressed because of the things that you feed to the vessel and your body with, allows the soul to be more restrained, to be more cognizant of that which it is desirous of. So here Ghazali will teach us a methodological approach and a roadmap, a blueprint as to how to navigate and feed the soul and the ruh, the spirit, and how do we feed the intellect and the heart. How do we feed these things? And when you feed the heart, the soul, the spirit, and the intellect with things that are evil, you will see the outcome will be exactly the same, which I'll go into more explanation perhaps next week. But for now, we're still trying to clarify the meanings of the ruh, the nafs, and we've completed the definition of what the soul means, or the nafs. He goes on to say that the ruh is al-jismul latif, which is a body الذي منبعه تجويف القلب الجسماني. He says that the ruh is a body which springs from the celestial heart. فينشب بواسطة العروق الضوارب إلى سائر أجزاء البدن. And he says that the ruh spreads through the medium of the uruq, which is the sweats that goes throughout the entire body. He goes on to say that the aql and the intellect, al-ilmu bihaqa'iq al-umur, is the instrument that gives us information, knowledge about the reality of matters. But if we were to say that the intellect is the instrument that causes us the ability to realize and to understand and to study sciences, then he says, kana huwa al-qalb. In fact, this is the actual heart. So he says there is a ishtirak, there is some participation in the four words in terms of its meaning. So when people speak about the qalb, when they speak about the heart, when they speak about the ruh and the nafs and the aql, it seems that there is some type of relationship between these words. Ghazali goes on to explain what are the soldiers of the qalb. What are the soldiers of the qalb? And he says the army of the heart could be restricted into three types. The first army is regarded as the irada army. Irada. So they say the first army that your heart has is irada. So your heart consists of three armies. There are three armies within the heart of every human being. The first army of the heart is known as the wanting army, the army that desires things, the army that wants things. Okay, so he goes on to say the second army of the heart is regarded as the army of omnipotence, ability. So the first army I said was the army of desire, the army of want, the army of greed. The second army, then, in order to fulfill the desire and the want of the first army, your second army in your heart, you will find, is the army of ability and power. So in order to fulfill your desire and your want, you actually need a second army, and that second army is called the army of Qudra. Okay, so there's three armies in the heart. The first army, the army of desire. The second army, the army of power, ability, omnipotence, if you like. The last army is the army of idrak, the army of implementation, if you like. You could say it's the army of realization. So when we look at the first army, a good translation for this, you could say the army of willpower, right? And in order to fulfill willpower, you need the army of ability, okay? In order to fulfill the army of willpower, you need the army of ability. So your heart has three armies: the power of willpower, the army of willpower, the army of ability, and then the army of realization or accomplishment. So the first type, right, the first army is the motive, and it is that thing that invites you either to acquire beneficial things that is in conformity to your desire, okay? Or you will see that the first army, right, the first type of army, remember we're speaking about the soldiers of the heart. So we're saying you have three armies: the army of willpower, the army of ability, and the army of what we refer to as idrak, the army of realization. So now we're explaining what is the job and the occupation of the first army, which is willpower. So Ghazali says that willpower and this army, its occupation and its job is to encourage you to basically do certain things and to acquire things that are either beneficial and goes in conformity to your desire and your and your want, right? Or this army ultimately will acquire or give you the ability to ward off those things that are harmful, right? And which are negative, like anger. And we refer to this army as the army of irada, the army of willpower. And the army of willpower is very strong, very, very strong. But what is Ghazali's objective here? Ghazali's objective here is to teach us as Muslims how to identify the real enemy. Who's the real enemy? And in order to identify the real enemy, Ghazali takes us through the stages of explaining what are the things that will destroy us as human beings. So he starts off by the definition, and we started off by explaining that there are four words that we will speak about, which is known as the heart, the spirit, the nafs, the inner soul, and then the intellect. Those four words, this is what Ghazali will break down. But Ghazali starts off by giving us what are the soldiers of the heart. Okay, we refer to them as the soldiers of the heart, and we said the soldiers of the heart of three: willpower, ability, and realization. So we've explained the first army, and the first army consists of soldiers that will either help you fulfill your desire, or it will help you ward off, right, and stay away from harmful things which are negative, like anger and other things. And we refer to this army as the army of willpower, right? The army of willpower, very strong. And you will teach us how to navigate and use the army of willpower, because many of us cannot control the army of willpower, and most of the time we succumb to the army of willpower, right? And that's why they say your willpower is stronger than your intellect, right? You hear this English saying a lot: your willpower is stronger than your intellect. It means that those soldiers in your heart are so strong that they can push you beyond what your intellect can even comprehend. And this is why sometimes the soldiers, which is the soldiers of willpower, they can push the body, right? The physical body, they can push it beyond its physical capacity. Can we imagine how powerful this army. So imagine when it comes to evil and bad and things that are harmful, this, if the willpower pushes those soldiers in order to acquire evil and bad and things that are negative, then you're in a serious situation. And this is what Ghazali speaks about, because he speaks about that the ummah and the nation as it stands today is in a spiritual crisis. Like, we have a spiritual crisis with our Creator. We have a spiritual crisis in connecting a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so he goes on to the second army, and he says the second army is the army of ability and power. And this is the army that allows your limbs to move in order to acquire your objective and your desire. And we refer to this army as the army of ability. The third army is the army that realizes things. It's the army that we refer to as the five senses. So the ability to see, the ability to hear, the ability to smell, the ability to taste, the ability to touch. We refer to this army as the soldiers of knowledge and realization, right? Which are referred to in a philosophical sense as the five senses, or the senses. Okay. Ghazali now goes on to explain how do we clarify the specification of the heart of human beings. Okay, so we say that ما يختص به قلب الإنسان ولأجله عظم شرفه واستهل القرب من الله تعالى راجع إلى علم وإرادة. So he says that in order to magnify, majestify, and give honor, right, to the thing that causes us the ability to grow closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says this ultimately goes back to knowledge, and it goes back to willpower. So it's based on two things. And he says that knowledge is to have knowledge of our worldly life and the eschatological world, which is the hereafter, and to have knowledge of the intellectual realities that we have around us. فإنها وراء المحسوسات ولا يشارك فيها الحيوانات. And he says to have this ability in terms of realization of the worldly life and the hereafter, and the reality of our ability to think as humans. He says this goes beyond the knowledge of the senses. So knowledge goes beyond the knowledge of the senses. So if you look at animals and cattle, they are also able to have knowledge. So for example, if I were to ask you, how does a camel or a dog cross the road? They cross the road through translating the sounds and the waves that they hear from the horns and the waters, right? So they might not hear sound, okay, when they're crossing the road in terms of the water, but the sound that they are translating of that water is a vibration, and that vibration causes them to say that there is pressure, right? So the ear of the animal causes pressure, and because of that pressure, the animal now wards off and he stays back. Whereas the human, we translate that wave and that vibration and that pressure that is coming from the horn, we translate it into a sound which we call the walking sound that is emanating from the water. Okay, so he says that animals and cattle do not participate in terms of this type of knowledge. The second type of knowledge that is specific to human beings is willpower. Okay, فإذا أدرك بالعقل عاقبة الأمر وطريق الصلاح فيه انبعث من ذاته شوق إلى جهة المصلحة. Very beautifully, he says your willpower, right? If your intellect is able to realize the end result, okay, of this affair and the intellect is able to realize the road to reformation, the road to coming closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, then if your intellect realizes this, it will cause your heart to have a motive and a desire towards fulfilling that reformation and that social welfare which you can enjoy as a human. And it will cause you to use your willpower in order to fulfill the motives and the objectives, in order to realize your willpower. وذلك غير إرادة الشهوة إرادة الحيوان. And he says this is not like the willpower of desire and the willpower of animals. بل يكون على ضد الشهوة. Right? So he says, but this is contrary, and this is the exact opposite of desire. فقد تنفر الشهوة عن إجراء عملية جراحية والعقل يريدها. So he says that it is possible that your desire wants to run away from completing this surgical operation, and your intellect actually wants to fulfill this. So he says that there could be a clash between your willpower and what your intellect wants. Okay, so he says the willpower has the ability to make the human being stay away from this desire, even though your intellect wants it. So even though our intellect says, you know, McDonald's is lekker and I will enjoy McDonald's, but your willpower has the ability to override that desire to eat McDonald's. Okay, so that's what he means in terms of the willpower has the ability to clash with the intellect, and that the willpower can't override the intellect. It is for this reason that we say the heart is unique by two things. The heart is unique by two things. Number one, it's unique in the sense that it can acquire knowledge. Number two, it's unique in the sense that it has willpower. So the first characteristic of uniqueness is that the heart of the human being is unique through knowledge, willpower, and these components separate human beings from actual animals. Okay, but to the extent that these are the things that separate young children in the beginning of the infancy in terms of the natural inclination and disposition towards things. Okay, but he says that this only happens at the age of puberty. It only takes place at the age of puberty. So in order to achieve these sciences, and in order to achieve these ulum, there are two levels of the heart's uniqueness to this. The first is that the heart could acquire knowledge that is necessary knowledge, like knowledge that استحالة المستحيلات وجواز الجائزات الظاهرة. So استحالة المستحيلات, like you know, when your heart is able to realize, and here when he speaks about the heart is able to realize and understand, he's primarily speaking about the fact that some philosophers say that your heart is your intellect, and that your intellect is not necessarily the instrument that is in your head, right? But rather that instrument that is in your head is it's moved by the actual instrument, which is the heart. So he says, like your realization of those things that are impossible doesn't have a reality. There is no reality to those things which are impossible. So if I were to say, for example, do we have rocks that exist that the Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, cannot pick up? Okay, so this thing is impossible. It's impossible for a rock to exist that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot pick up. Okay, so we say that everything that is impossible, right, to in our realm and in our universe and world, okay, everything that is impossible does not have a real existence to us as humans. Okay, it is therefore that rock will never there is no reality to its existence. Likewise, you can use the same analogy towards is there another God? Okay, what's the reality of the second God? There is no reality to it. So there is no existence to a second God. And the biggest way or the easiest way to debunk that discussion is to say that the heart, or to say that show me the second creator. Okay, and then I will end off for today's session by saying that the second type of knowledge that could be acquired is through experiment and through pondering and reflection. Okay, and when we look at these different levels of the heart and its uniqueness, we cannot calculate its ability to realize these different sciences. So there are different levels of it in terms of the amount of its vastness and the amount of whether it is not that vast. So the honor and the status of knowing these, knowing the information and the method of acquiring this information, this happens to what the some mystics refer to as the inspirational divinity, or divine inspiration, right? And to others, this type of knowledge is acquired through learning, education, which could take a very long process. So the levels of transmission and learning are unrestricted, and the highest of levels was the level of the Prophet ﷺ, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the ability to discover all of these realities, and most of that which was discovered was out the acquisition of actual knowledge, and without that burden and effort that we need to put in as humans in order to acquire this knowledge. But rather this happened through what the mystics refer to as kashf, right? It happened through, if you like, inspiration, and it happened through divine inspiration, not just inspiration, but divine inspiration, inspiration that was Rabbani. And this takes place in the best of forms, and this is in conformity to the verse when Allah says, "Wattaqullah." If you fear Allah, wa yu'allimukumullah. If you have true God consciousness, then God will teach you. So that type of knowledge that is acquired through fearing God and having that awe of His presence, that is a knowledge that you will not find in the books. Okay, so inshallah ta'ala, this is our first segment to explaining you know, the destructive instruments that will destroy us as human beings. And inshallah, this will be a journey. Let us I do not want this to be a normal Friday ceremony where we just have motivational speeches, but I also want it to be somehow spiritually uplifting, in the sense that we can academically back up our spirituality. Okay, so this is the approach. I would really encourage everyone that is listening in, whether it's through WhatsApp, whether it's through our Facebook or our Instagram, all our social media platforms. If you do listen in, please sit with the page um, and a pen, and take notes, because it will be a systematic lecture series that is based on the instrument that destroys us as human beings. This was the first segment. In next week's segment, we will explain the characteristics of the heart, and we will also go into explain the different levels of the barriers of the heart, the things that cause us to not realize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we will also try to speak about the obligation of being weary that Satan is able to control your heart. And I will explain how Satan and Shaitan controls the heart of humans and how he enters the heart. Okay, so we will go into a strategic explanation of how Shaitan enters the heart of human beings, and I think that's a very important discussion. And for that discussion, please bring a pen and a paper, because I want you to use it as like you have daily notes where you can use this through your life, and it could assist you with your spiritual process in terms of coming closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it can also assist you in knowing, okay, why am I spiritually disconnected to Allah? Okay, so the purpose of these Friday advice is to connect us spiritually to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we can only do that if we know what are the things that destroys us as humans, what are the things that we should stay away from, right? Many of the things we know, but we're not really aware of it, right? So like we know that Shaitan is around, but what Shaitan does is, you know, the English saying, the greatest trick the devil ever played was make the people believe that he doesn't exist. I'll repeat that. The greatest trick the devil ever played was to make people believe that he does not exist. So this is what Shaitan did. He made people believe that he doesn't exist. He made us believe that it is your nafs. He made us believe that it is your heart. And some of it is your heart, some of it is your nafs, some of it is your intellect. But most of the time, there are things that kick off those negative and satanic behaviors, whether it be you becoming angry, whether it be you doing something wrong. There is something that started that behavior. Like we always end up at the end of the road and then we're going to say, why did that happen? But Ghazali's process is to teach us, before you see that guy doing something wrong, whether he say he robs a bank, now you want to say, why would he rob a bank? What was the reason that he robbed the bank, right? So if you look at his lifestyle, right, you will see that the behaviors that we will describe, and this is what we call madakhil shaitan. What is the trap? What is the illusion that shaitan creates, right? So these traps, right, it's called the devil traps, if you like, right? Madakhil shaitan, devil traps. We will try to explain what was the process, right, of the devil trapping that human being into actually stealing the possession of someone else. Okay, so not just looking at the evil act and discriminating the person that broke into the bank and trying to make him out to be a boogeyman, right? That is not the point. The point is understanding how Shaitan deludes us and deceives us through the process, right, of eating. And we'll see it's based on our diet, it's based on our sleep, what we eat, when we sleep, how long we sleep, and you will see most of it is based on how we earn our money. Where do we get our money from? Is it halal? Okay, so inshallah ta'ala, I hope this gives everyone a good perspective of the idea of these lectures. Please like our YouTube page, subscribe, press on the link below, subscribe and share it with your friends, and spread the love and spread the deen, and spread the information to each and every one of your loved ones, inshallah ta'ala. That's it from me today. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wa sallim. Have a blessed and great weekend, inshallah ta'ala. Please keep us all in your pious prayers. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Shukran. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول حي على الصلاة حي على حي على الفلاح